Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Hello, everybody. This is Guineith Isaacs speaking here. Keeping the chair warm for Vincent today. We're going to be talking today. Just before we get on to the broadcast, Jason is engineering the broadcast in Minnesota, and the call-in line, I think that we can take calls, is 866-582-9933, but I can't see the call screen in front of me because I'm calling from my cell phone here in sunny Victoria, Australia. And so, but Jason should be able to patch your call through if you would like to call in. That's 866-582-9933. Okay, now we've got, I know I've been saying this a lot lately, but it's actually true. I think that this is going to be perhaps one of the most important broadcasts that I've ever done on USA Prepares, because what we're going to be talking about today is being able to look at yourself in the mirror and actually see who you are. Okay. Now, there was a movie that was made, many, many decades ago now. I think it was put out in around about 1984. So, yeah, that's a long time ago. But anyway, that movie was called The Never-Ending Story. And yeah, it may be there on YouTube, either as a, either as a free movie or as a paid movie. So if you want to watch it, then that's probably, if you, just fork out the, however much it costs to watch the movie. But I'm sure that if you keep an eye out, you would also be able to buy it on DVD or, whatever. But wherever you manage to watch it, I would recommend, in fact, I would set this as homework for people to go and watch the movie called The Never-Ending Story, because we're going to be talking about some of the issues that are connected with that movie in today's broadcast. What this movie is basically about, it's about a little boy, and his mother has died, and he's living with his dad, and his dad is into some sort of mathematical profession. It's not quite outlined. Maybe he's a stockbroker or whatever. But he wants for his son to become an accountant or something, and it doesn't really float the boat of the son. He doesn't want to do that because what he loves is stories. Okay? He loves creative imagination. And he gets bullied and he gets chased by some bullies. And he ends up in a bookshop, and he ends up with a book, which is The Never-Ending Story. Now, I trust that this movie is old enough that many people in the class have probably seen this movie. I'm not going to give away too many spoilers, But there's a few things that I want to discuss that have to do with this movie. One of the key ones is that he has to face who he really is. The little boy, Bastian, who is the main character, he has to face who he really is. And at this point in history and in time, I think that's going to be one of the most important things that all of us have to do. It's so easy to delude yourself into thinking that, you know, into thinking that you're something that you're not, or to basically kid yourself on that the whole of the world's problems in your personal universe are all somebody else's fault, when they're not. Because there's an old saying which is, you make your bed, then you have to lie in it. That is so, so, so true. And you might think, well, the world's spinning out of control. You know, there's so many unpredictable things happening, and I've just lost my job. Maybe that's your circumstance. I'm about to get kicked out of my house. Maybe that's your circumstance. But whatever your circumstances are, there have been a chain of events that have led up to that crisis point. And ultimately, you might think that you've been swept along by this chain of circumstances that have led to the crisis point that you're facing now. But I think that if you look more closely at it, that you'll find that, like the boy in the never-ending story, you'll have to look in a mirror and realize that it's all you. That every one of us makes the circumstances in our own life for better or for worse. As soon as you realize that, that creates really quite an interesting set of circumstances internally. As soon as you stop the denial and begin to own your circumstances and say, the reason why that I am where I am today is because of the decisions that I made in the past. Okay? Personally, for me, that means that the reason why I'm on this 20 acres of land in the middle of nowhere, living off-grid, is because a number of years ago I signed a contract to buy this land, and I bought it and I paid cash for it, and there was a bank transfer went through out of my bank account, paid the funds to the seller's bank account, and I bought this land. That was what happened, and that's the reason why I'm here. And there's things about this farm that I love, and there's things about this farm that maybe annoy me a little bit, you know, but that's the way it is in all of our lives. And you look at the things that you don't like, and instead of just sitting back and whinging and moaning and complaining about it, at some point you ultimately have to realize that you did it, that you are the captain of your ship, and you are the one who is responsible for the good things and the bad things in your own life. Now, you might think, oh, but my whole city's in lockdown. I can't move out of my house and go down the road without risking arrest. Well, you decided to live there at some stage. you know, oh, but I didn't know all this was going to happen. None of us did. But you know, I'm speaking from Victoria, which is a whole state that is recently been through one of the most atrocious sets of lockdown in the whole world. And I just chose not to comply. And, you know, I didn't really change anything about what I did on a daily basis. I was used to living on my farm and only going out very, very occasionally and, you know, keeping myself busy and occupied doing stuff on my own land. That was the, that was the life that I had built for myself. So when the whole world went into lockdown, really nothing changed. And when I went out into town, I simply refused to comply with their satanic initiation ritual. And was it a risk? Of course it was a risk, you know, but life is full of risk, especially at the moment. You know, life is just insanely risky at the moment, and you have to decide, you know, well, you have to decide if you're going to live with that risk and live as a free man or a free woman regardless, or are you going to fold under and ultimately end up becoming a slave by complying with all of the satanic stuff? You have to decide what you do, because every one of us at the moment is in the process of, I've heard a lot of people say, there's this fellow out there and his name is Eckhart Tolle. I'm not sure if I agree with everything that Eckhart Tolle says, but one thing that he says is that we are all co-creating our future, for better or for worse, okay? And if enough of us just stop complying, then there's no way that they can bring about the sort of future, the sort of utterly diabolical hellscape. I'm saying that as a geographical term. They want to bring such a devilish world into being, okay? They want to bring Hades onto the earth. And that's the sort of future that they want. As, George Orwell once said, he said that the future that they have planned is a boot stomping on the human face forever. You have to decide out there individually if that's the sort of world that you want your children and your grandchildren to live in, or do you want another future? Hello everybody, this is Guineith Isaacs speaking here. Today we are talking about owning up to your life and your society, and to realize that we all made it, we all did this, okay? There's a point in that movie, The Never-Ending Story, okay? It's got a lot of really interesting philosophical and spiritual lessons that it could teach us, and I could spend the whole broadcast just talking about this film. But there's more things that I want to discuss today, but I just want to discuss this one point. And spoiler alert, if anybody has not seen The Never-Ending Story, and you don't want any spoilers, just tune out for a minute or two because I'm going to discuss something that happens. But it was released a long time ago, and I realised that a lot of people in the class would have seen it, so I'm talking to them. At one point, the hero, Atreyu, who is from the Indian tribe that hunts the purple buffalo, that's the definition of his tribe in the film. He has to go through a gate, and he has to see who he is. And it's like two parallel universes connecting through this book called The Never-Ending Story. Okay? And Atreyu and the boy reading the book, who doesn't feel particularly brave, who doesn't feel like an Indian warrior, they see each other for just a few seconds through this mirror. The Indian brave, who is the child warrior, sees that really he's just a child inside, a scared little boy living in the basement or in the attic. Okay? And then the little boy Bastian, who is the scared child, who is running away from the bullies, the tests, the thunderstorms, all the trials of life, and he's hiding in the attic of his school, reading the book. He realizes that he's actually a warrior inside, and he decides to have courage and to do what he needs to do. He sees another side to his nature. And both of these children see the other side of their nature. The brave warrior sees that he's really the little child, and the little child sees that he's really a brave warrior. That there are both aspects of the personality in there, and you have to decide which of those you're going to go with. Are you going to go with the little child who's lost inside you, or are you going to be the brave warrior? Because all of us have a little child that's lost inside of us, and all of us also have a brave warrior on the inside of us. And we have to decide which of these two archetypes we are going to go with, which of these two modes of behavior we are going to go with. And as soon as the brave warrior sees and recognizes that there is an aspect of his nature that is the scared little boy, he's able to move on. He pushes through the fear that he's feeling on the inside of himself, and he walks through that gate and he fulfills his destiny. Okay? Now, each one of us, this is what I mean, we have to be honest with ourselves to realize that we are who we are. We created the circumstances in our life. If we want a better world, there's only one person who can build that better world for every single one of us, and that is every single one of us. Now we're heading into the bottom of the hour news. We'll be back on the other side, and I'll see you in a few minutes. Hello, this is Guineith back again. Sorry about that, everybody. We just dropped out for whatever reason. But what I was saying was we make our lives and we break our lives one day at a time. If you've got a bad habit that you do every single day, then let's say you wake up in the morning and the first thing you do is you light up a cigarette. Well, don't be surprised if after, 10, 20 years that you have lung cancer. That lung cancer was given to you by that pack of cigarettes a day. That's just how it is. This works on a macro level of you build your own life one day at a time. But it's also on the micro level of, you know, every moment of every day. That's how you spend your day. You spend it one moment after another moment after another moment after another moment. And people complain that they don't have enough hours in the day, but we really all have the same number of hours in the day. And why is it that some people accomplish a huge amount of stuff and other people just wallow in their mother's basement? What's the difference? Well, the difference is how they spend their day, how they spend each moment of every day. Like, for instance, I'm not perfect, okay? I have problems in my life, but I'm working on them, working towards a solution. And even those problems that I can see are problems in my life that I might not necessarily be working on answers for at the moment, I'm beginning to realize that they're problems and they're going to get dealt with down the track. But you've got to have priorities. You deal with one problem at a time, sort that problem out, then you move on to the next problem. Okay? And then you gradually get them all sorted out. But one thing that I'm learning at the moment is making use of those little moments in between. And I know that this is something that Vincent has talked about a lot in the past. We just had the bottom of the hour news. And when we had the bottom of the hour news, I thought to myself, oh gosh, that's right, I've got to put the horse's grain on to soak. So I went out and got the horse's little feed bucket that I soak its grain in from down in the stables. I put its ration of grain into its feed bucket. I brought it inside. I put the water in so that around about midday, and the time is now probably getting pretty close to 2:45 in the morning. So I should have actually put it on to soak several hours ago, but I didn't. Well, there we go. That problem's fixed. Okay, the horse's grain is on to soak. And at around about midday, then I'll give the horse its grain, which keeps it in good condition. Now, that's an example of not wasting time, of making use of moments. All right? Now, we'll go on to the horses a little bit more because I'm not sure. I think that I will actually get into that now. We all have in our lives things that reflect ourselves to ourselves, okay? One of them is our dog. If you look at your dog and you can't stand your dog, you have to own it. You know, maybe you bought the dog or maybe you adopted the dog as a rescue dog. Maybe you've had it since it was a pup. Maybe you bred that dog. But however you got a hold of that dog, you need to own that dog and you need to own its relationship with you. Because in the vast majority of cases, I can almost guarantee that dog did not choose you for its owner. You chose that dog, okay? Whether you got it from the pound, whether you got it as a breeder, even if you bred it yourself, you chose to keep that puppy and sell all the rest. You still chose the dog. You chose it out of the litter. You said, I'm going to keep that one. Now, you need to own your relationship with your dog, because that relationship that you have with your dog is actually a reflection of your relationship that you have with yourself. And if you have a problem with your dog, then you have that same problem somewhere else in your life with yourself. So, if the dog is defecating all over the house, who's responsible for that? You are, because you didn't toilet train it properly. That dog has a set of programming, okay? It's programmed to defecate in a certain place, all right? It goes back to the smell of its feces. Sorry to be coprological here, but that's how it is. So if the dog has a certain patch on the carpet in the corner of the living room that it's chosen to make its pee-pee spot, well, you didn't clean up its pee-pee at some stage in the past. And so it kept going back there, which means, you know, you've got to come to a decision of what you're going to do about that. Because the dog can't decide anything. It's completely at your mercy. You know? You have to decide what you're going to do to solve that problem. Are you going to get some of that carpet sprinkle that you get from the supermarket that you sprinkle across the, you know, carpet deodorizer? And just keep some of that on hand, and every time that you notice that the dog has done its business in that patch of the carpet, that you're going to put the carpet deodorizer so that it blocks the scent, or even baking soda, vinegar, you know, some other disincentive to the dog just going back there. Are you going to start being consistent? Because the fact that the dog is going to the toilet in a certain patch of the living room shows that you have not done the right thing in toilet training it. And you need to own that. You need to realize your mistake and you need to correct it. That's just how it is. You know? Or you could just live with the pee-pee spot in the, you know, corner of the living room. You could get one of these, you know, mattress liners that you get for infant cots. You could do that and put the mattress liner there, and first, you know, put it face down so that it gets some of the smell of the urine on it, and then put it face up. That may be another solution, but you've got to own the problem. You have to own the problem and stop blaming the dog, because the dog is only doing what its instincts tell it to do. The dog will always pick a spot to go and do its business. And it's your responsibility as the owner to make sure that that spot is a spot that is suitable for you. And you know, like I said, my life's not perfect. I wish that it was. None of our lives are perfect. But this is something that I'm working on in my own life, not necessarily dogs defecating inside, but that I'm just using that as an example because it's something that a lot of people can relate to. Now, there is another example as well, which is horses. I've been noticing on the internet the two huge problems that are out there with people and their pets are dogs and horses. People have such problems, it keeps the likes of Cesar Millan in a tidy business because everybody is looking to buy a book and to buy a course and to buy something that will fix their dog's problem. And it's the same in the world of horses. And I notice this because I'm a horsewoman. I have horses. But I noticed this. And they want some course or other, and they fork out hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars to some horse trainer or other. I'm not against these horse trainers. I'm not against these dog trainers. The horsemen and the dogmen, they do a tremendous job, but they're not the answer. And if you want to know the answer, I'll help you right after the break. Hello, everybody. This is Guineith Isaacs speaking here. Today what we're talking about is owning your life, owning up to your life. And I was talking before the break about dogs and how a dog is a reflection of its owner. And maybe you've got a dog that has problems that are not your fault, okay? Maybe you've got a rescue dog that came from another family that has problems that it developed in that other family. Maybe, I don't know, I had a dog once that used to rip the laundry off the washing line. And I used to have some very beautiful lacy dresses. And I loved those dresses. And I used to get very, very angry with this dog because I would come out and it had ripped my dresses off the washing line and played a game with them all over the backyard. And no matter what I did, I could not train this dog out of the habit of pulling the laundry off the washing line. And that wasn't something I had acquired this dog as a free to good home. And the people who gave it away to me were not honest with me about this habit. But if they had been paying attention, then that habit never would have gotten a chance to develop, because they would have seen it ripping the clothes off the laundry line, and they would have been able to discipline this dog, tell it that that was not acceptable behaviour, and that dog would not have done that behaviour again. But they didn't, and so the behaviour became entrenched to a point where it was not solvable. And unfortunately, one day that dog jumped out of the yard and into the path of an oncoming farm truck and broke its back and had to be put down. That was a dog that had no self-control. It was a dog who had been allowed by its previous owners to not have any self-control because they were inattentive and weak. And I don't generally adopt, although I have, from time to time adopted dogs. They've always had problems. There's always been something wrong with them. Sometimes I've been able to train the behaviour out of them. Sometimes I've had to live with it. This is it. You've got to realise that if you've got a dog, that dog is on your property by your consent. If it has a problem, if it develops a bad habit that is not solvable by you, you may have to consider that the kindest thing to do might be to take it to that one-way trip to the vet to be euthanized. If it has a problem that makes it dangerous, if it has a problem that makes it just unpleasant to be with, like I say, if you have a dog that ends up ripping the laundry off the line, you have to decide whether you're going to put up with having no good clothes, or if you're going to attempt to train the dog out of that habit, or if it's not fair to pass that dog along to somebody else. That might seem like compassion, but you're just fobbing your problem off onto somebody else who's not really aware of what's going on. And that's not fair to the dog. It's not fair to the person that you're handing the dog on to. And it may well be, if you get a dog that has a difficult or dangerous problem, you may have to decide to euthanize that dog. That's a really hard decision, but that may be a decision that you have to face. And as it turned out, with that particular dog, I'd never had to face that decision because, like I say, in a way it solves the problem itself. It misbehaved once too often by jumping out of the yard and into the path of an oncoming farm truck. And then it had to be euthanized over there. Okay, now we're at the top of the hour news. After the top of the hour news, we'll discuss horses and how horses are also a reflection of their owners and what can be done when you have problems with them and what that means for you. Okay, God bless, and I'll see you soon. Hello, everybody. This is Guineith Isaacs speaking again here. Now we're going to talk on the first part of this hour, keeping to the topic about seeing yourself and seeing your life as it really is. Horses. My gosh, there are so many messed up horses out there. It is just absolutely amazing. If you have got a horse that is an absolute schoolmaster, that is just doing the right thing and is an old school type horse that everybody used to have once upon a time, one of these horses that, you know, you could just get on it, you could ride it, you could have fun, you could trail ride or go, you know, and do your show jumping or whatever it is that you were doing with this horse, and it'd be fine. These days, my gosh, you go out on, you know, in the world, in the universe of horse, and it seems that the majority of horses out there are messed up with some problem or other. And it could be that they buck, it could be that they kick and rear, it could be that they attack their owners, it could be that they are just, they don't want to move. They, you know, it's impossible to get them to, you know, move at anything other than a slow shuffle. These are all problems that horses have. And their owners, they say, oh, we don't know how he got to be that way. He used to be a good horse, and then he just turned. Horses don't just turn. They are creatures of habit, and they are the most malleable. I was listening to, I listen to a lot of horse people, horse trainers, horse men, and horse women on the internet, from a whole variety of disciplines, from Arabians to, people who breed horses in Rajasthan, you know, rare Marawi horses in Rajasthan, to Akal Tekis in Turkmenistan, Western, to people who do Western riding in the United States, Australian stock horse guys who do stock work in Australia, dressage, you know, eventing, 3-day eventing, show jumping, and I hear the same thing from every high-level horseman and horsewoman across this vast array of horse disciplines all over the world. Horses are the same. There are differences. Some of the horses are more hot-blooded. Some of them are more cold-blooded. Okay? But really it doesn't matter, because you can get a badly behaved Clydesdale as easily as you can get a badly behaved Arabian or Mustang or whatever. It doesn't matter. You know, a badly behaved Clydesdale is probably even more dangerous than a badly behaved Mustang or Arab, because they're bigger. But the reason why they behave badly is because somebody taught them to behave badly. It's the same thing. Horses are a reflection of their owner or previous owner. The difference between horses and dogs tend to become extremely entrenched in their habits. Once a dog has developed a habit, it's extremely difficult to break that dog of that habit, because they're predators, they're carnivores, and they've been trained, through epigenetics and through hundreds of generations of their ancestors in the past relying on habits to an instinct to get them through. Like that dog that I had that was ripping the laundry off the washing line, it wasn't ripping the laundry off the washing line. It was attacking a massive prey animal. In its mind, that's what it was doing. It was attacking an aurochs or a woolly mammoth or something with the clothes and the way that they were fluttering in the breeze, resembling its fur. You know, that's what the dog was thinking in its mind, and a particular set of epigenetics was triggered, a habit was developed, and by the time the owners realized what was going on, it was too late. Okay? Horses are not like that. Horses are the most malleable creatures on the face of God's earth. Their mind can be trained in a day to act differently from how they were behaving the day before, which is why you get a horse that had a deeply, deeply entrenched problem. Maybe for 10 years it's had this problem, like, let's say, for instance, kicking. Why does the horse kick? Because one day something annoyed it and it kicked. You know, maybe somebody was standing too close to it and was just, just doing something stupid with its leg. And then it kicked, and then the person went away. And the horse went, oh, that was nice. You know, so the next time that somebody stood directly behind it, it gave a kick, and then the person goes away again. And they go, oh, yeah, problem. Horse has got somebody standing behind it that it doesn't like. Reaction gives a kick, and that, in the horse's mind, gives the solution where the person goes away. Now, that's actually a really easy problem to solve, because you just make it uncomfortable for the horse to kick. So there's a number of ways of doing that, and if you want to learn how to do that, probably the best thing to do is to go to an old school horsemanship text. A favourite of mine is the Complete Encyclopedia of the Horse by Dennis Manger, Manger. And he was a very famous American horseman in the 19th century. just in the last half of the 19th century, just actually during the Civil War and just after the Civil War in the several decades then, he was the most eminent horseman in the United States, and people would bring their horses from all over the country to see him, to attend his clinics and to get their problems fixed. And generally they would be fixed within minutes or hours. Some of the problems might take 5 minutes to fix. Some of the problems might take 15 minutes or half an hour to fix. But it was very rare for the problem to still be a problem after 2 hours. Usually it only took a matter of hours to train even a deeply entrenched horse out of its problem. And then it would never be a problem again, because people thought differently back then. People had a greater idea of responsibility, and people tended to do the right thing by themselves, by each other, and by their animals. And so actually problem horses were a lot rarer, because problem people were a lot rarer back in the day. They still occurred, of course they did, because it's a fallen world, you know. And you would get some unfortunate horse fall into the hands of an unfortunate fellow who would mistreat it, and it would develop a string of problems. Now, that's the owner's fault. And then the owner would blame the horse and say, oh, it's vicious, it kicks, it bucks, it carries on, blah, blah, blah. It's been trained to do that by the owner who had it before. That's how it is. And listening to all of these horsemen from all over the world, from Arabia, from America, people of the likes of Pat Corrali, Ali Al-Amiri from the United Arab Emirates. Who's another one? There was a person in Rajasthan who had Marawi horses. They have a horse there which has very long parrot-shaped ears. A very beautiful horse, a very fine war horse. And they've been breeding them for maybe 500 to 800 years. They're an exceptional horse, especially for use in the desert, you know. But they all say the same thing. They say there's no horse that cannot be trained out of a bad habit. And horses are taught bad habits by bad owners. And if you've got a horse with a bad habit, and you have had that horse for its whole life, or pretty well close to its whole life, or if that horse was fine when it got to you, and then it developed a bad habit after it came into your care, guess whose fault that was? That was your fault. And you need to own that, because it's only when you own and take responsibility for the fact that the reason why that horse is like it is because of you. That's not to condemn you. That's to say, you can, once you own that problem, you can fix it. You can ask God for an answer. I don't know the answer for your horse, and I don't know the answer for your dog. But what I do know is that problem with that horse or that dog is not really a problem with that horse or that dog. It's really a problem with you. And once you own that, you can begin to fix it, especially with horses. Like I said, dogs, maybe you can fix it, maybe not. There are a lot of exceptional dog trainers out there who can pretty well fix any dog, like Cesar Millan. I love Cesar Millan. I think that he's great. But if you have a problem with your horse or if you have a problem with your dog, the person that you need to fix And the person that you need to blame is not the dog or the horse. The person that you need is Guineith Isaacs speaking here. Now, I'm aware that there's probably a lot of people out in the class who are guilt-tripping right now because of what I said in the last segment. And there's probably a lot of you that are feeling pretty hostile, pretty defensive. You may have even tuned out. I hope you haven't. If you're still listening, then obviously you haven't. But I don't want to leave you hopeless. Okay? I want to give you solutions. And the primary solution, okay, if you're not a believer in the Lord Jesus Christ, you need to get on your knees. If you don't know the living God in a personal way, if God is not your friend, you first of all need to get on your knees and get acquainted with the Almighty. Because nothing else in your life is going to really fall into place if you are in rebellion against Almighty God. Okay? That's just the plain, simple truth of it. Nothing else is going to work. It might seem to work for a while, but then things are going to start going wrong again. This is what you've got to realize, okay? Now, I'm aware that this is a short segment, so I'm just going to cut to the chase here. Once you have got to that place where you're in a relationship with the Almighty, you need to start asking Him for answers to your problem, okay? You need to say your problems in your prayer. Just talk. You know, you might feel silly, but this is what I do. You know, you can speak in your mind the problem and you can say, okay, I need some answers here. In your mind, you can say that, and you will find that the answers just occur to you. Or you'll find that you read about them in a book or watch them in a YouTube video, something will come up on your Facebook feed or whatever, however it comes about. Or you might just be a moment of inspiration. You might think, oh my gosh, I never thought of that before. But then, as well as that, you need to have something else, because you can be God's friend, but we've all got so much gunk in our soul and in our minds and in our lives and in even physical poisons in our body that affect how we feel and how we emotionally respond. You need to deal with that. You need to start drinking pure water and eating clean food and breathing fresh air if you can. That will probably involve moving out of the city. I've already done many broadcasts on that topic. I'm not going to go into it again that topic right now. But one thing that for me personally, just in the past week, has been an absolute breakthrough, okay, and it has led to just, transformations in my life of problems, has been Dr. Norman Shealy's autogenic training, okay, and Wim Hof's autogenic training. What I've been doing is I've been doing a Wim Hof breath session. That's WIM, gap HOF. If you want to find out who Wim Hof is and what his, breathing technique is, then the information is out there on the internet. He recently did a broadcast with Michaela Peterson, who is the daughter of the famous psychiatrist, Dr. Jordan Peterson. And Michaela Peterson and Dr. Jordan Peterson recently did a podcast together with Wim Hof. and the results were quite extraordinary. If you begin to do autogenic training, I can guarantee you it will utterly transform your life. And you will find that you're more peaceful, you're more able to deal with problems. And I can hear the music coming again. Hello everybody, this is Guineith Isaacs speaking here. Case in point, during the bottom of the hour news, I have a lap dog here, and he's one of my favourites. I have a number of dogs, but this is my lap dog. He's about 12 months old, and I caught him stealing cookies. Stealing cookies is not on. So he got a little bit of discipline for stealing the cookies, and probably next time he won't be so keen to steal cookies, you know. And it's knowing how to do it. If you want to learn how to properly discipline a dog, then I would recommend looking at Cesar Millan's videos, and he will teach you how to do it properly. So I'm not going to go into the details of how to discipline a dog properly here now, but that's just an example. And I literally saw him walking past with a cookie in his mouth, and he looked at me and I looked at him, and we were in the break, and I said, right. And he went, uh-oh. And that, you know, he's 12 months old. He's still a bit of a pup. And he's got to learn the rules that you don't steal cookies. This is it. And because I realized that was, I knew that he probably had been, because I had noticed the biscuits going missing. And I thought that it was probably him, because the other dog is a lot older and she's been through this, and she doesn't steal cookies very much anymore and that sort of thing. I don't think she does it at all, actually, because, like I said, she is quite a bit older and she knows how things go. But this is it. You have to own your problems. And you have to be disciplined in yourself, and you have to appropriately discipline those people and those animals that are in your care. Appropriate discipline. It's very easy to find out what that is. There's loads of YouTube videos on that. Okay? Just go and watch some, and you'll see how to appropriately discipline horses and dogs and children. Okay? And if you do that, your life in the end will be much easier, because lack of discipline is the key underlying fundamental cause of most of the problems that you see in the world today. It's what forms basement dwellers. That is, these man-childs that you see that are 25 and 30 and 35 years old that live in mum's basement and seem to spend their whole lives playing Grand Theft Auto. They're doing that because the parents are allowing them to do that. They're never making them go outside, and they're never making them, get some fresh air and sunshine. That didn't start out with a 25 or a 35-year-old spending their entire life in their mother's basement. That didn't just happen overnight. To get to the root of that problem, you've got to go 20 or 30 years into the past when that child was 5 and was never ever told to just go out and play, Go outside and get some fresh air. Go and run around for a bit. Get out of your room. You're not doing it. You know, if people did that with their children, just said, listen, just go out and play. And if it's not safe in your area, you should probably move to another area. To be perfectly honest, if you're living in an area where it's not safe for your children to play in their own backyard, you need to leave that area. That's just how it is. But they have, this is how it is with all these sorts of problems, with children, with horses, with dogs. The dog or the child is allowed to steal the cookie from the cookie jar, and mum just turns a blind eye. You know, even when she catches the child or the dog or whatever in the act, there's no consequences for that. There's no consequences for that misbehavior. When that dog stole the cookie out of the bag, it knew. As soon as it saw me and I made eye contact and it had the cookie in its mouth, it said to itself, uh-oh. And like I said, I got it and I appropriately disciplined it in the manner of Cesar Millan. Thank you, Cesar Millan, for your fine work in teaching the world how to appropriately discipline their dogs. And this is it. You've got to realize this. Now, horses. Getting back to the topic of horses. This goes for dogs and this goes for children as well. Horses, dogs, and children, they all have dominance hierarchies. Jordan Peterson talks a lot about dominance hierarchies. Dominance hierarchies are ancient. They're also very, very unpopular in our modern world. You know, everybody likes to think that everybody's equal, but everybody's not equal. Some people are better than others. Some people are higher up on the totem pole than others. Okay? And that's just how it is. And that's the way it is with dogs. That's the way it is with horses. That's the way it is with children. And that's the way it is in families. As Jordan Peterson loves to point out, that's even how it is with lobsters. I love that guy. I love what he says. If you want to get your life straightened out, you need to listen to him. You need to listen to people like that. You need to listen to Cesar Millan. You need to listen to Jordan Peterson. You need to listen to people like Jeff Berwick from the Dollar Vigilante. These people will help to get your mind straightened out. There's a lot of other people out there of a similar ilk. I would recommend that you, instead of binge watching on the Hunger Games or whatever, that you binge on the podcast of Jeff Berwick and Jordan Peterson, Cesar Millan, and people like this. And I've got favourite horse trainers, Pat Pirelli, Carson James, you know, and various other horse trainers, like I said, Ali Al-Amiri. They're favourite people of mine because they teach people how to behave in a normal, natural, and appropriate way, which does involve discipline. It does involve hierarchies. You know, that when you have that sort of balanced approach to discipline and hierarchy, not a matter of domination, you must do what I say, or else. That's not how it is, you know. That's called tyranny. But when you've got leadership, that's something different, okay? Leadership is like this. That pup that stole the cookie, he'll come and jump on my bed later, and he'll probably sleep with me all night, and I'll scratch him behind the ears, and he'll be fine, you know, and he'll lick my hand because I love him and he loves me. That's just how it is. And because we've got a balanced relationship. But I'm the alpha. And in any dog pack situation, if it was just dogs, if I was not a human and I was a dog, and I caught that pup, that young 12-month-old pup, getting stuck into my food, he would be disciplined. No question about it. There's no way that any alpha in a dog pack would put up with a young upstart stealing its food. And they understand that. That's how they are. That's how dogs are. When you're training a dog, you make it wait for its food. For that very reason, you say, I'm the alpha, and you're operating on a psychological level, and you're communicating the fact, without tyranny, but using the dog's natural psychology, that you're the alpha, you're the one who controls the food. It's got to sit there. It's got to wait for its turn to eat. And that's how it is in a dog pack. The dominant members of the pack eat first, and then when they're done, they give permission to the other members of the pack to have a go at that carcass that the dogs eat. And that's what dogs eat in nature. They eat carcasses. That's just how it is. So that's an example. But children are the same. You love your kids, you hug your kids, but if they do the wrong thing, you have to bring them into line using appropriate discipline methods. You have to. Because if you don't, they end up being in a lot of trouble, in a world of strife. They might become a basement dweller who's got a subscription to websites that you wouldn't like that start with P. Or they might become a career criminal, or they might, be 25 years old and 200 pounds when they're only, I think just about what any height you were, that 200 pounds is probably going to be overweight unless you're mega bulky weightlifter or something like that. That's just how it is. You've got to realize that your children and how they turn out is your responsibility. That your dogs, your children are a reflection of you, and their behaviour is a reflection of how you've trained them. So if they are disrespectful to other people, it's because you trained them to be disrespectful to you. If you've got children that are, being aggressive towards you, well, that's because you've allowed it when they were little, and then they grew. And it's the same thing. If you've got a partner who's aggressive towards you, why are you still in that relationship? You shouldn't be there. This is it. And you've trained your partner that that's okay behaviour towards you. What I'll do in this segment is just summarise everything that I've said in this whole broadcast. If you have children, and if you have dogs, and if you have horses, then those children, dogs and horses and their behaviour is a reflection of how you have trained them to be. If you have a significant other, a boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse, partner, whatever you want to call them, how they treat you is really a reflection of how you see yourself. And if you're not happy with how your children, your dogs, or your horses, or your spouses, boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, de facto, whatever you want to call it, if you're not happy with their behaviour towards you, then you need to see that as being a reflection of yourself, and you need to make moves to change it. horses, you can generally change their behaviour quite easily once you know what to do. But it's going to need the self-work to be able to make those changes that you need to make. Okay? You can make the changes. You can say, if you have a spouse or a boyfriend or girlfriend or partner, business partner, whatever, friend, whatever, if they are treating you wrong, and you need to realize that you're probably not going to fix them, but that the reason why they have felt the liberty to behave badly towards you has been a reflection of your opinion of yourself. And you need to correct, you need to first of all do something to either remove yourself from that person, or you need to, tell them to leave, whatever it takes to remove them from your life. Okay, so either you need to leave or they need to leave. Now, children you can train and you should train. If your children are behaving badly towards you, then you need to correct them. You need to start disciplining your children because their behavior is a reflection of what you've allowed, and it is a reflection of how you see yourself. So you need to begin doing some work on yourself through, I would primarily recommend Dr. Norman Shealy's autogenic training and also Wim Hof's autogenic training methods of breath control. And I would also recommend Dr. Jordan Peterson's many courses and self-help systems that he has written over the years. And I'm sure that if you go to any of their websites, this is not an advertisement. This is not an advertisement for any of these people. I'm not getting paid to tell you about these people. I'm telling you about these people because I have been helped personally by these people. Okay? I didn't have such extreme circumstances, but I was helped to fix some things in my life through these people's work. And if you need help in training your dogs, then I would recommend getting in touch or getting courses or books or whatever from Cesar Millan. He is the best in the dog training area. And I would also recommend just learning about canine behavior. There's books that have been written, academic books that have been written on canine behavior. And once you realize how dogs interact with each other and what they do, what the alpha does, what the pack structure is, and what the alpha does to keep his pack in line and functioning, then you'll realize, oh my gosh, I'm meant to be the leader. And then you'll start to be the leader in your own life. And you'll find that it won't just be your dogs and your horses and your children and your significant others and partners and spouses and boyfriends and girlfriends and all the rest of it that give you less problems. You'll have more peace and more confidence in yourself. Well, this is the end of the broadcast. Well, God bless you all. And I'll actually see you tomorrow. I'll be on air with Kathy from Ohio.